thinking about the questions that I get because I talk to you all, Senior Director of Business Development at Blue Sky eLearn. I talk to you all every day, all week, and have been doing that for over a decade. And I was thinking about the questions that I get, and I want to just set the scene and talk about hybrid conferences in particular. And I'm going to make the bold assertion or claim to us today that hybrid conferences are here to stay, and that your conference, as we go back into normalcy, is going to have a hybrid conference extension almost guaranteed. And I want to just explain why that is that I think that. So I was thinking about how to do that, and I put together this little storyboard. And I want you to just please use the chat as I go through this to tell me if this resonates with you as sort of where we are now and how we got here. So way back in ancient history in 2020, in the early part of 2020, we were doing conferences. And as old Babe Ruth shows us there at the bottom, we were very good at conferences. I'm always amazed when I go to annual meetings at how high quality they are in all the different complex aspects that need to be brought together in order to make those events a success. However, something that is sort of a interesting sort of key to what's coming in the future and where we are now is that the percentage of our members that have been going to our conferences is usually lower than people think. And if you happen to be in the chat, if you know this, if you're a meeting planner, you know about your meetings, chat out the percentage approximate of your membership that was going to your annual meetings way back when. In my experience, 15, 20%, 30%, that's very high. Yeah, there you go. 10, 15, 20%. So 10 years ago, when I created the Certified Virtual Events Producer Certificate, which came before the DES, and I was trying to convince people why they should be doing a hybrid conference, one of our big pitches was, well, you've got this large set of your membership that's not coming to your annual meeting. You should be marketing to those people and trying to bring them into a virtual experience. And there's more revenue to be made there. There's a greater trade show experience to be had there. And the pushback, as you all may recall, was oftentimes literally at the board level. And we even had a term for it. I'm not sure if we're even using that term anymore, but it was cannibalization. What's going to happen to our meeting if people get used to being online and experiencing it? They'll stop coming to our conference. It'll kill our meeting. And I was in many of these kinds of meetings where there was that real struggle going on. And some of the leading edge associations started to do virtual extensions, but really most did not. So then the COVID bomb hit us. And if you were lucky, if you had your annual meeting in January to March of last year, you might have gotten that event. It might have actually happened. I talked to people actually in New Orleans that had a late conference, like January, February that happened. I've talked to somebody who started their conference in March in San Francisco, and literally the hotel was closed while everybody was there. So we all have some interesting, incredible stories about all that. But when that occurred, there was a lot of thinking and a lot of angst across the entire industry of what is going to happen now. We can't have our annual, literally this multi-billion-dollar industry ground to a halt. And what are we going to do? And so we as vendors were part of many of those conversations with the meetings committees and the education committees and the boards and the vendors. And what came out of that was us trying to see in our crystal ball what was going to happen. How long was this going to continue? And what were our options? So then what happened? Some of us just canceled our annual events and just put it off. Others chose to engage with some of the great vendors that we have here today and that you're going to see tomorrow as well, to do either putting all of that content into online courses and just having it available either for free or for sale. Some did webinars and just took sessions and made it into a webinar series. And the people who were the most brave took on learning this new term of virtual conference. And it was a new term for many, many people. Virtual conference platforms had actually been evolving for over a decade, but there were also a lot of new virtual conference vendors that came onto the scene. So in general, the membership was sad about this. The association was definitely sad about this. The CVBs and the entire industry, physical industry at the locations was definitely not happy, but it was all that we could do. So we survived together and we got through 2020, and there were some real successes and some really interesting things that came about from taking our conferences and putting them online and having these new kinds of interactions and experiences. And just Zoom, for example, being so much more comfortable to so many speakers and so many people who attended. So we got through 2020, and luckily that's it. Everything's going to go back to normal, right? Well, this is where kind of we are right now. We're in winter, spring, and I think people have decided that we're going to stay safe. And the virtual conferences that were scheduled for right now are ongoing, either planned or just about to happen. And also some organizations have decided again to either punt the conference or have them done as webinar series or courses. And I think that everyone is much more comfortable with that environment now, and with the fact that we just have to do this and that it can be done in a quality manner. So here we go into the second part of this year. And what I'm seeing, and in a lot of areas of the country, it's still just kind of unknown whether or not we're going to be able to have conferences. It looks like towards the end of the year, it's going to be much more viable. Some folks are moving forward, and please feel free to put in the chat if you are moving forward with your physical annual meeting, either in the summer or in the fall, winter, and just put in the month and location if you're willing to. But I'll tell you something, there's a change. There's a significant change in the conversation now, because the doors have been opened. People aren't thinking about cannibalization anymore. The board does not need to be convinced. I'm being told by senior level meetings and education managers that they understand that there is going to be a virtual component to their major meetings going forward. Not just for 2021-22, going forward. And that people have now got it, that the best speakers in the world can be anywhere. They don't have to be physically at your meeting. And the same for attendees and the same for exhibitors, that there can be this mix of people who are physically on site, because we all love to do all the networking that humans love to do. That's not going to go away. Some of the greatest experiences in the association industry in my life have been the conferences. Just amazing opportunities to meet new people and networking. That's not going to change. That's going to come back. But there's also a lot of people who, if you ask them, will say, I really enjoyed being able to take part virtually from my home without leaving my family, without doing all the traveling, let alone the second half of this year where it is somewhat chancy. So that brings us to the new normal. And the new normal is a little bit especially tricky for the second part of this year. The new normal is that we're going to have physical on-site conferences, and they are going to have hybrid conference extensions. And they're going to be done well. And it's another area that we have to learn about together and get trained up for. But they can be done without a lot of extra stress and in very high quality. However, this year, there's an extra little twist, which is that as we're planning those hybrid conference extensions, we have to be ready to flip over to an all virtual conference. That is not going to last. That will be gone in 2022. But for the rest of 2021, we have to be thinking about that possibility. So that's my short summary on how we got to where we are. And so that you don't think that I'm just telling that story. And in my last 2 minutes in this forum, I just want to say that there are some things that we need to be thinking about for hybrid conference extensions that are different than virtual conferences. They are not the same. And especially when you're thinking about needing to flip hybrid conference over to all virtual conference, you want to be doing some things in advance. You want to be thinking about your conference first, but also thinking about what happens to this conference if it does go onto an all virtual format. There are best practices for that. This has been this is a process that can be understood and can be done with high quality. And you need a partner that is going to be able to prioritize along with you and get the experience in the quality that you need. So yeah, so there are things to consider, but it's very doable. We're going to get through this the same way we got through going into virtual conferences, and it's going to be some learning, but I think when we get through this first set of it, you're going to see that this has a lot of potential and all of a sudden can bring a global audience into your conference. So in closing, I'll take questions, but I also just want to mention that this Friday at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific, we're going to do an hour-long presentation, myself and Ronnie Dudek, who's been he's done more webcasting of these kinds of conferences than anybody I know. And also we have an association executive who's going to be joining us, and we're going to talk in much more detail about all of these points. So thank you very much. I hope that was useful, and let's take some questions.
Great, thanks, Lance. So what about remote speakers? How are you guys handling that?
Yeah, so this is one of the logistics that needs to be handled. Without going into too much detail, there's going to be a broadcast of a video stream that is going to happen from the conference site, from the physical conference site, into the hybrid conference extension. And that video stream is going to include everything that's going on in each room. There's going to be one of them per room, and that's going to include all of the speakers who are in the room and also all the speakers who are remotely coming into the room. So the remote access for the speakers will be in the room. They won't be coming from the hybrid conference into the physical conference. They'll be brought in via Zoom or GoToMeeting or whatever to a special computer that is set up, usually by the AV team or the webcast team, and that will be in the room at the conference, projected onto the screen, and that is very very knowable, done technology to make that happen. Yeah. And then that will be broadcast into the virtual conference.
Yeah. All right, great. Feel free to add any questions into the Q&A and I'll get them.
Yeah, just reading through here. So October already decided to be virtual. Some folks still going for it, planning January in Pittsburgh, hybrid, Austin, Texas, hybrid. Exactly. Good. I'm so glad to see this. Yeah, good. Good. August 21, Hershey, PA, undecided. Might go all virtual. And so there you go. Yeah, we're in this together and we're here to help.
So, you know, we have a think tank going on right now for medical societies, specifically that our members had asked us to put together. And a lot of the medical societies are going to have in-person conferences, but they're still also planning for, I don't know if they said they don't like the term hybrid. So if it's blended or whatever this new word looks like in the future.
It's all good.
What is it like? But it seems very daunting to everybody. Like the whole, you know, we flipped to virtual, we figured that out, right? Like, okay, that was hard, but we did it. And now it's another kind of unknown.
Yes.
So what do you feel is like the planning time? Like, how much time do we need to plan these kind of hybrid extensions?
That's a really good question. So, a hybrid extension is simpler than an all virtual conference, actually.
Oh, okay.
And it can be put together. I always like to have 3 months before a conference to be contracted with your partner that's going to be production with you. If you can have more, that's fantastic. But I would say at least 3 months. The thing that's a little bit that people look, the whole virtual conference thing was unknown 8 months ago. Now it's known. The hybrid conference is going to be the same. It's not a new thing. It's just something that we all have to learn together. And what makes, I think people feel like it's a little bit more complicated is that there's pieces in 2 places. You have to have some pieces together at the actual physical conference site, and you have to have in the cloud everything organized so that the connective tissue is all there. But this has been done for a decade. It is not new stuff. It can be done.
Well, great. Well, thanks, Lance. Really good information. Appreciate it. And we are going to move on to Ariana and her team from Matchbox Virtual. Hey, Ariana.
Hey. I have Kate joining me as well.
Great. Hi, Kate. Well, I will let you guys do your presentation and meet up with you in a few minutes.
Awesome. Don't know where Kate is.
Yeah, could I get my video, please?
What's happening when you hit, let's workshop this. What's happening when you hit start video?
I cannot start my video because the host has stopped it.
Oh, okay. So
there we go.
Boom. Meet Kate, everybody.
Hey, everyone.
Yeah, exactly, Barbara. I was like, this is our chance to shine. Let's workshop this. Hello. So I am Mariana from Matchbox, and I asked Kate to join me today for 2 reasons. The first reason is because she can hit it up in the chat. So say hi to Kate in the chat, and she will wholeheartedly say hi back. And the second reason is for her to keep a kind of resting smile face throughout the duration, because it can be really kind of daunting and scary sometimes to present. So I am going to share my screen. Hit the present button. Boom, boom. Okay, so Kate, just you can keep yourself unmuted. Actually, you can also laugh at my jokes if I spontaneously come up with them. But
excellent.
So we are at Matchbox, we are virtual event producers. We've been at this for several years now, and our passion is really in using virtual events to spark meaningful community connections and interactions. So we get the question all the time, you know, are you a platform? And the answer, honestly, is yeah, kind of. And that is actually a new answer, because for a long time we were 100% a service provider. So we were, you know, sourcing the right technologies for a given problem set, recognizing that there's so many reasons why people are going online and seeking to achieve different outcomes with different communities. And so over time, we realized that, you know, there were certain outcomes that we were seeking to achieve that we weren't able to quite capture the right combination of tech for. And so we had these aspirations to start to build some of our own tools. And so where we landed on is kind of a best of both worlds in terms of enabling our service, because we do have our own native tech and are doing our own build out for specific pieces. But what we're doing actually is integrating with a lot of existing tools and technologies within our platform. And so based on the certain set of circumstances for a given event, we will be tagging in different tools for that purpose. And so this is just a screenshot, recognizing that everyone has gotten really, really good at interacting with the Netflix interface recently. We have taken major design inspiration from that. So every tile leads to its own session or experience, and that's really when we're tying into to other technologies for those pieces. So as far as you know, what it means to be a service provider with the events. What happens when you work with us, you are partnered with a partner success team. So these guys are really your Sherpas through the whole process. And they're, you know, to use an analogy, you know, they're like your general practitioner doctors who are tagging in the right specialists within our team for the specific needs of specific events. So our community success teams, for example, recognizing that these events are these incredible ecosystems of different stakeholders with different needs and questions and all the anxieties, because doing well in the virtual space is really scary. I felt some anxiety going into this now, even though, you know, I've had all this experience in the virtual. So we have these 6 teams who are trying to work directly with the stakeholders of the events. So for example, our speaker success team, they are interacting directly with the speakers, answering questions on the kind of training technology side, but also on the best practice side. You know, there's a doing well virtually is new for a lot of people. So our speaker success team is also liaisoning with our production team for those sessions that are produced in advance, and our live event support team for the sessions that are live. Because there are many examples of session types that work better when they're pre-produced or work better live. And one of the things we're doing is helping work with you to decide the best combination for your event. So with that in mind, you know, the big thing to kind of emphasize about us is that we are problem solvers rather than a solution. And we are problem solvers, incredibly passionate about the space that we're problem solving in. You know, my big revelation in the virtual space environment, my background was in online community management, and kind of recognizing when you bring a group of people together who are trying to solve the same problems or passionate about the same things, in facilitating the right interactions and leveraging virtual tools, you can come to actually some pretty amazing outcomes. And so with that in mind, just a little context when I'm going to kind of lead into. When we were looking ahead at 2021, kind of went, okay, well, where should we be focusing our energy and problem solving? Where should we be innovating, essentially? So we kind of narrowed in on these 4 areas of focus, and honestly, those were a reflection of the articulated need. You know, oh, sorry. A lot of these areas are virtual networking, for example, is something that virtual events get a bad reputation for falling short on. And so this has really been kind of our areas of passion. And so on the side of the virtual networking front, kind of deciding to innovate out loud, if you will, partnered with, for those who are familiar with Amanda Kaiser, we partnered with Amanda on a recent initiative called the Virtual Networking Incubator. So this is a cohort of 200 association professionals. Actually, very possible that some folks listening right now are part of that. So hello, team. But the incubator was really designed to bring this community together for a special period of time and experiment with different tools and technologies and really have all these meta conversations around what's working well, what needs some more focus and process thought, and also, you know, the reason why things are working well. So, you know, an example of that, one of the big revelations that has kind of emerged out of this is the difference between sessions that are great for as icebreakers versus reunion. So, you know, some of the events that you might be working on, the group of people that are participating, they're all new to each other. And so there's going to be, you know, comfort level differences within that group. And then on the reunion side, you may have a community that is used to being together face to face in the past, and now they're virtual. And so they're going to be a little bit more open to things that are, you know, a little more silly, for example. And so we're kind of experimenting with these different things and capturing the things along the way. I had several slides actually that were starting to go into some of the major findings of all of this, but then realized that any sort of rabbit hole I went down could be its own sort of presentation and conversation in and of itself. So I will say, if anybody's interested in talking about virtual networking or some of the findings out of the incubator, I'm really excited to kind of chat about it. One thing that has been a major finding out of it is recognizing that within a given community context, very likely those who are comfortable to go in, or comfortable or interested, honestly, in going into some of those more high engagement interactions is going to be very likely a minority of the larger community. And so one of the things that we have been recommending, for instance, if you're going to do some, if you're going to take risks with some sessions that are a little bit more interactive, that you consider offering kind of multiple options or tracks around the same time. How many minutes do I have left? I actually have no concept of that. How long do I get to talk about this?
Ariana, we've got about 4 or 5 minutes.
Okay, perfect. So I purposely left myself the most time to talk about design sessions, because this is a session type that has been emerging recently that I think has some major potential out in the world. So it's my goal in kind of putting this out there to one day be invited to be an attendee to this type of session. So please take this concept and run with it. But design sessions this is something that we had experimented with internally among our staff. This was actually a staff event where we had started to do this and kind of realized, like, hey, there's some major potential here. And it was a session designed for collaborative innovation, basically, is, you know, a group of people that are all seeking to solve the same type of challenge, and finding meaningful ways for that group to actually start to come to. So the way that we have organized this session type, you know, it starts with a group brainstorm that's kind of designed to get divergent thinking, you know, get people thinking about the challenge in different ways, answering questions, building off each other's ideas, and then moving those groups into kind of smaller video chat breakout room conversations designed to really hone and focus in on solving for those solutions, and then coming back together as a group and sharing their insights. So this is something that we've used both in icebreaker events. So, you know, this is a group of people that has never met before, and it turns out to be actually a really great way to meet people because it's purpose driven. You know, you are there to solve together. It's also a great reunion activity as well, recognizing that there are certain commonalities and challenges of your community. So Kate and I want to leave you with a kind of blueprints for doing a design session. And if you do it and it works, I would love to hear about it. Even if it doesn't work, I'd also love to hear about it, honestly, because we can workshop that together. But Kate's going to drop into the chat a link to a recipe for a design session. So we've started to think about different virtual experiences and sessions in the context of recipes. And this is an initiative actually we're launching and going to continue with. So if you check out our website and our blog, you'll see links to future recipes as well. But Kate has dropped those into the chat. And one of the reasons I share this is because, of course, this is an incredible opportunity right now in our industry to be learning together and trying out new things and kind of honing and perfecting, recognizing that virtual events are here to stay in a really meaningful way. So with that, I'm just going to put this slide here. That is my email address. If you have any questions, you want to chat virtual networking, say hello. And that's about it.
That's great, Ariana. That's a great resource that you provided. Thanks for that. Can you just kind of, just a quick question, give another couple examples between icebreakers and like a reunion session?
Yeah, absolutely. So icebreakers, we have one of the things that we've been doing. Oh, Christina, yeah, I'd love to chat with you. Kate, if you could help, thank you. One of the, oh, that totally derailed me. Icebreaker, yes. So one of the things that we've been looking at and kind of leaning into are games, using games as a way of connecting and meaningfully leading to further interactions. And so there are some games that are really low barrier entry and are really designed to just have everyone getting into that mindset without being too intimidating virtually. Mm-hmm. So, an example of one that we use is called fun fact statements. So somebody will express something and then everyone else in the chat using reactions will express if they also share that commonality. So that's something that's like a low barrier thing where people start to identify others that they're comfortable with. Another example, there's actually literally a platform called Icebreaker, which is puts people into one-on-one interactions. We actually, with the incubator, just experimented with it last week. And so what happens is you're put into a conversation with another person with, cards that come up and icebreaker questions. And so that's the type of thing, that is if two people are meeting for 6 minutes, let's say, that is likely the catalyst for a relationship to occur after the fact, or to continue after the fact. This was a big revelation I would say with all of the virtual networking pieces is that, one of the advantages that the virtual brings is the ability to introduce people and let that be a starting point for something into the future, and introduce them because they really do, not because they're sitting next to each other in a room, but because they're passionate about the same thing or looking to solve the same problem. So one of the things that we recommend in that situation is, making, enabling the continued interactions, whether that be encouraging people to share their profiles for continued interaction, even something honestly as subtle as making sure that people's first name and last name are visually showing so that, one can someone into the future on LinkedIn, et cetera. The other major advantage there is the possibility to have a virtual interaction lead to a meaningful face-to-face one in the future. So you could imagine, let's say, an approach of a conference that's going to be face-to-face, having a virtual meet and greet in advance so that folks are more likely to be more comfortable and authentically into the future. I super digressed. Reunion events, you can get into more, into some of the more kind of sillier interactions on, using the same example of games, ones that are the design sessions sometimes will go in a direction with those that are a little bit more of a competition. So for example, like Shark Tank pitches coming back in, and usually the group is more likely to connect with something on the sillier side if they already know each other. So yeah, that is the full answer.
Great. Well, thanks, Ariana. Thanks, Kate. There's been a lot of chat that I'm sure you guys can follow up with the rest of this afternoon. And we're going to move on to introduce Joanna and Brian from BeSpeake. Hey guys, I'll let you
Hey
there. Welcome, and I'll let you guys take it away.
Awesome. All right. Wow, we've lots and lots of really amazing information already shared. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
We too believe that virtual events are here to stay. We also believe that hybrid events are here to stay, and I'm looking forward to to kind of talking about that in the future. Today, though, what we're going to do is we're actually going to do a case study of a client, actually for some organizations that are here, a small organization that really pulled off a large event. So just to introduce us, we're Matrix Group. I'm CEO and Chief Troublemaker. Brian is Director of Business Development, and we're a digital agency. And for a couple of decades now, we've really devoted ourselves to helping associations and nonprofits increase membership and generate revenue. And we do it through web, mobile, social, and virtual meetings. So here are our services, and today we're going to be talking about BeSpeake, which is our virtual meeting platform. So we thought that it would be of interest to you to hear about how one organization pulled off a virtual meeting with a tiny staff. So NAES has 6 full-time staff persons, and we ended up interfacing with 5 of their staff members to really put their biannual conference online. So NAES is a trade association of K-12 Episcopal schools around the country and Haiti. And they're a longtime client, and we're going to tell you their story. So Brian, you were going to talk to us about where NAES was.
Yeah, so Biennial 2020, a big showcase event for National Association of Episcopal Schools. Happens every 2 years, and have about 400 to 500 people attend every year. This is certainly their biggest show of the year, and the biggest opportunity to not only provide education but networking as well. Might be a similar story to other folks here back in July. COVID pandemic was just strong, raging, and the meeting was scheduled in San Diego on in November of 2020. And it was a case where NAES was very concerned, not sure what to do, how to do things, had no familiarity with the virtual conference, and really needed to make sure they put on a great show and opened up dialogue to us to talk further about what we could possibly do.
And I think the important thing for NAES was they said, look, this is a signature event for us. How are we going to put on a virtual event that has the feeling of biannual, that has the community and has the spirituality of this event, so that it really is high impact for their attendees. So this is Jonathan Cooper, and he turned to Matrix Group, their longtime partner. They actually do a lot. They use a lot of our services, and we really guide them through a lot of opportunities and challenges. We do web work for them. We do marketing automation. They also use our membership database, and then they turn to us for BeSpeake. So we want to talk to you about the elements that really made Biennial 2020 a success, again, using the BeSpeake virtual platform. So number one, it was really important to them that the virtual meeting have beautiful design and a lot of spiritual elements. They said, look, it can't look generic. It can't look too corporate. It has to be really beautiful. And in the BeSpeake platform, we actually have a lot of capabilities for customizing. Up here, for example, up here, in the top left is what we call our gate page. We have a lot of flexibility with regard to, what it looks like and the functionality. Down in the bottom left is actually a screenshot of the footer that had a piece of scripture in it. On the right here, we've got a screenshot of the homepage where they really worked with us to customize the elements. Like this, it says available till January 31st, 2021. That actually changed before the conference, during the conference, et cetera, and the video in the top actually changed again every day of the conference. So there were lots of things that they were doing to kind of generate interest, but also give people a feeling of being very immersed in the platform and getting this feeling of spirituality. Number two is an intuitive user experience. And at BeSpeake, we really want it to be very clear what you can do with a virtual meeting platform and what you need to do next. We kind of have gone for a much more streamlined look to make it easy for people to know which sessions are available next. And I'm going to give you some examples. On the left is the NAS program before the conference started. And you'll see here on the left, we had, exhibits are open, help desk. It tells you exactly, hey, the session is going to start in 2 days. It hasn't started. The little heart tells you can favorite that. Pretty standard functionality. But one of the things that our program page does is when you get to a certain day, all the previous days disappears. And when you get to the day, the sessions actually disappear once they're done. They come back, don't worry, but the idea is that when you finish a session and you go back to the program page, you're always presented with what's coming up next and what's open now. So at different parts of the conference, it's always really obvious to you where you're going to go next. Now, at the end of each day, the broadcast engineers actually take those videos, there's live streams, et cetera. They do some light editing and then they make them available on demand. And you can see here on the right, so at the end of each day, we've got the sessions from that day already available. And then at the end of the conference, the entire schedule comes back with links to the on-demand views as well as the slides, so that after the conference, all the attendees, as an example, really have the ability to navigate the program by the schedule. So if somebody says there was this great session on Friday, but I can't remember what it was called, I think that his name was Walter, they can navigate, but they can also go to the on-demand section. They can do a full text search, but they can also then filter by category. So in the case of NAS, for example, they had a number of sessions devoted to Episcopal identity, and they wanted to make it easy for people then, even post-conference, in case they missed it, to be able to access those sessions. Number three is an engaging live program. Now, this particular organization said, we don't really have a lot of budget to be doing a lot of pre-recorded sessions, because they said that was just going to be cost prohibitive. And we said, let's do a live program. And so they did their live program two ways. They did it in a broadcast studio that was streamed into the platform, but we also have our own video rooms where the smaller breakout sessions, as well as some of the networking, actually took place. So on the left is a screenshot of one of the broadcasts, the live streams, and you can see people could interact via the chat. But on the right is actually a screenshot from one of the networking sessions that happened. So we were able to. So NAS was really able to take advantage of both types of technologies. Brian, you were going to take this one.
Yeah, I love this. It was such an important element for a biennial 2020. Again, the education is phenomenal, but it's all about the networking, the opportunities to interact. Again, these are people in schools needing and wanting to learn what other people are doing as well, and be able to have some thoughtful conversations. We had many different ways attendees would be able to interact with each other, whether I was an attendee or an exhibitor. And one of the fun ones I thought I'd talk about for just a moment was the concept of morning coffee. Traditionally, it was a case where morning coffee was part of the program, an opportunity to have coffee, sit down, interact, have some conversations. It was important to try to recreate that same element. And we were able to put together morning coffee. Allowed, may have been from like 9 to 9:30 in the morning, essentially to kind of kickstart the day. An opportunity to grab coffee and enter one of the private meeting rooms, like you see here on the right, with up to 8 other individuals to discuss, share thoughts and so forth. And what was really great is each morning coffee session, it's hard to see in this screenshot, but if you look on the top right, right in the middle of the video screen, there's some text there. So we're able to, provide some initiative questions or ways to try to help encourage a conversation. Additionally, we had the opportunity for what we called affiliate lunches, an opportunity for different levels of schools to meet in these additional sessions during lunchtime to share a meal and be able to carry on conversation, whether it was elementary school or high school, etc. We have, of course, we have one-to-one appointment scheduling, which was used. It's easy to use and really allows an easy opportunity to catch up with folks you might used to see in person at the conference. It could easily create an activity. I can invite other people from the attendees, and necessarily wasn't just one person. If it was a small group that I usually kind of hung out with in the hallways or after conference, I could schedule those opportunities to have a conversation. And again, this would utilize the opportunity of our speakeasy rooms, the small private meeting rooms, to allow to share video, share screens, share documents, etc., and have additional conversation. And finally, really, it's a case of finding other attendees as well. The attendee search makes it very easy to find folks you're usually used to talking to or discovering new people to talk to, where I could easily send a quick message or send an opportunity for a conversation or share an opportunity or request an opportunity to have video chat. It was a great way to get the conversation flowing and make an easy entry accessible, I guess, for attendees to schedule time to meet.
So I'm just going to quickly go through just a couple of other elements that I thought made the meeting really successful. The number 5 was that they infused the conference with music, and this was all them. They did a beautiful job. They had a choir. Their entertainment was, was Catch Secor. They had a student choir. I mean, they just did a beautiful job. During the pre-roll, there was music. At the end of the sessions, there was music, and it just really added to kind of the flavor of the conference. Number 6, we worked really, really hard with them to develop rich exhibitor benefits. And so in addition to the sponsor page, each sponsor had kind of a beautiful interactive page. They also gave each of the sponsors their own video rooms that were open during certain times of the day. They did incredible messaging in their emails to really encourage people to visit the sponsor pages. They did a scavenger hunt. They highlighted some of the some of the exhibitors. And then really in the programs, they did a good job of kind of incorporating some of the sponsors into the programming. So, we can spend a whole lot of time talking about that. So, how did they pull it off? 6 staff, including the executive director, they really could not do any of the planning until September, because that's when they were given the okay to pull out of the contract. And this is how they were able to do it. We had weekly meetings starting in September, where I gave them a dedicated conference manager. And every week it was, doing a deep review of the attendee journeys, the program flows, how do we add interaction? What do you think about these exhibitor benefits? Can we do this? We've got a speaker who's got a question, wants to do this type of a session. Should we pre-record? I mean, just lots and lots of conversations. We also provided just tons of training for the speakers, moderators, and exhibitors. I think there were a total of about 12 training sessions to just make sure that everything was going to go off without a hitch. Because again, 5 staff, and there were 5 breakouts in each time block. So just a lot of people moving around in the platform. We had tech support before and during biannual. The platform opened a week early so that people really had an opportunity to get familiar with the technology. And then during the conference, we had a Slack channel where they could talk to us in real time, and we could report on things that were happening. So we had this one funny story where there was an award recipient who suddenly lost internet. And, we had to act really fast to figure out how to get her into the broadcast studio. She ended up using her phone, and it worked beautifully. And then finally, BeSpeake is really built on amazing AWS technology. So we use AWS streaming, which is just absolutely wonderful, for streaming in HD. So for me, one of the most wonderful quotes came after the conference, where one of the heads of school said this: words fail to express how uplifting, inspiring the past 2 days have been. And then finally she said, this biannual exceeded any expectations any of us might have had coming into it. And that's just amazing when somebody says to you, I felt like I was at biannual and this exceeded my expectations. So if you would like more information about this, we're actually doing an in-depth case study tomorrow at 2 p.m. Jonathan Cooper from NAS is going to be available, and he's going to talk about all the things that they did to make this conference a success and why they made the decisions that they did, how did they add interactivity, networking, etc. If you'd like more information about BeSpeake, we've got demos going on weekly. Tomorrow we've got one at 11, and then afterwards we've got one on March 16th. We also offer free kind of brainstorming sessions where you can, have a conversation with one of the conference managers or one of the meeting designers to see what's possible for your meeting.
That's great. Thanks, Brian. Thanks, Joanna. I appreciate that. There's a lot of additional events that you guys have been having almost every week, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So there've been some good programs, so you guys check them out. One quick question: people are asking about, they're like, these are great ideas, but what are your thoughts around moving to hybrid?
So I actually think we've got to move to hybrid, and I think there's different methods for moving to hybrid, but I think the most important thing is, how do you create an engaging experience for the virtual folks? Mm-hmm. So I like the idea of making the speakers really all virtual, and then setting aside, and then really kind of devoting the in-person conference to the small breakouts and the networking sessions. But if you're virtual, then you can also have the breakouts and the networking. Yeah. In our platform, we've made it so that you can watch a video like on your phone, for example, but you can also go to the video page live and in person, just don't turn on the video and still participate in the chat. So we've got one client that's actually going to do that. What they're going to do is everybody virtually and in person is going to use the same chat. They're going to have the speaker on one screen, and then the chat is going to be broadcast on another screen. So like in person, you'll see the chat, and virtually you'll kind of see the same thing, the speaker and the chat. We're also doing things in our one-to-one networking where the system will know if you're in person or virtual, so that you'll be able to still like schedule meetings with other people. And if you're in person, you'll say, let's meet at the bar, versus if you're virtual, then obviously you'll meet virtually. So those are just some of the things that we're working on with our clients.
All right, great. Well, I appreciate that. Thanks so much. And we are up next is Mike with TopClass WBT Systems. Thanks, guys.
Well, good afternoon.
Hey, Mike.
Nice to meet you all. Thank you for spending some time with us this afternoon. Okay, I have lost. Okay, so anyways, what I'd like to do is I'd like to show you a little bit about TopClass and what we provide in the industry. Let me just share this here. One more thing here. Just to give you a little bit of background, WBT Systems has been here for 25 years. This is our 26th year, actually. And so we've been around, we've seen quite a few things over the years. I've been with the company 21 years as the business development director for WBT. TopClass is a very flexible platform for associations, been specifically designed with some capabilities that are really needed in associations for education, certification. We also have very powerful e-commerce capabilities built into the system. And one very important thing is being able to integrate TopClass with a lot of other systems that you may have, such as an AMS or a CRM type system. The TopClass platform has a lot of different features that are built into it. For instance, it really does enhance the learner experience. It has a very nice catalog and e-commerce capability built into the system, so that a catalog, for instance, that you can actually break down into multiple different types of offerings, both in the way that they're delivered and also the type of offerings that they are. TopClass also has a very powerful certification tracking capability, and also for continuing education credits as well. With certifications also becomes maintenance of certifications and maintenance of compliance, and TopClass also supports that as well. It's also designed too for B2B sales, which is important, especially with certain trade associations and those kinds of things that are out there. TopClass provides for fully integrated learning. And by that, I mean, most all forms of learning can be accomplished using the TopClass platform, such as online, virtual, instructor-led classroom-based type training. And TopClass supports all forms of content that are out there. For instance, anything that's web displayable can pretty much be used in TopClass as content. And also TopClass provides for interactive videos, which is very important, especially with the heightened use of webinars and virtual type sessions, where you can actually record those sessions and then bring those into the system and then add interactions into those videos. TopClass also has a very powerful testing and assessment capability built into it. This is something that's becoming more and more important, especially as the utilization of learning management systems expands throughout associations and other types of organizations. There's also one of the things that's really important with most learning that's out there, especially when you're dealing with online learning, are getting feedback from your learners. Well, TopClass also has the capability so that you can provide forms that people can fill out for course evaluations, for feedback. That way you know whether or not your training is worthwhile and actually is meaningful to the people that you're serving. TopClass also has a discussion and form capability built into it. This is something else that's also becoming more important, especially even with online learning, where you can actually have discussions and forums tied into the online learning programs so that people can pass projects back and forth and just communicate with other people within those particular classes. Just to mention this as well is that if you're already using something like Higher Logic, TopClass actually has a plugin with Higher Logic so that you can actually embed it right into TopClass and just turn our discussion and form capability off. Works really nice. Another thing that's really something that, a little bit that we've talked about a little bit today in the session too, different things like digital badges and micro-credentialing. Those are fully supported inside of TopClass as well. This becomes a little bit more important, especially when you're looking at gamification and keeping people involved in the system and in your learning system. Another very important aspect is reporting. Reporting's always been one of the things that's been missing in a lot of learning systems. And the reason for that is it just never was thought of as being something that was really important. However, with TopClass, there's over 30 standard reports coming out of it. And by that, I mean, it's different reports as far as things like supporting goals and seeing where people are progressing through training and those kinds of things, all very important aspects to learn whether or not they're getting what they need out of it, as well as you're being able to provide them what they need. And then TopClass also has conference and event management capabilities built into it. So it's a really complete platform for everybody. So with all of those things, what are associations using TopClass for? Well, they're using it to actually deliver webinars and web conferencing, to deliver online courses, not just online courses, but also instructor-led courses as well, both virtual and on-site. And also TopClass promotes learning, like I said before, discussion groups and forum capabilities so that you can do social sharing and whatnot between different groups of individuals within the system, and also communities of interest or people that are in specific classes or certification programs. It also provides for being able to provide learning programs so that people can actually have a learning plan as to what they need to have. And this goes right along into certifications and credentialing. So for instance, TopClass has a full capability for certification management and tracking and delivering. Alternative credentials such as digital badges and micro credentials are something that associations are starting to use more and more with TopClass. And also another thing that's kind of important too is experiential learning and mentoring programs are also something that's very important, especially now, especially when people can't always be in person and they need to work, in an online environment. Another area that associations use TopClass for quite extensively are for leadership training, training volunteers, training things like chapter officers, and also staff training for the larger associations that are there. And also TopClass is being used for conferences, even more so now, workshops, and also in-person seminars. And then once again, TopClass is also multi-tenant capability, which is really great for the larger organizations that maybe either have divisions or chapters or in trade associations, companies that you want to provide them with their own portal, their own branding, their own courses, their own latest news and different things like that. That's all fully supported inside of TopClass. And then a new feature inside of TopClass is virtual conference and management capability built into the system. This is something that we did. We soon, right after the pandemic first started raising its head, we kind of decided that we would put a brand new feature set inside of TopClass, and that was to be able to manage virtual conferences and events. And what this does is that it's delivered through TopClass using, for instance, the Zoom platform just plugs right in to be able to manage these. And I'll show this a little bit in a video in a second. For continuing education, what's really nice is, especially when you're doing virtual events such as webinars or conferences, most organizations really like to record these. And so with TopClass, you can actually continue the discussion after the event is over. So if you can create, as I mentioned before, online discussion groups and forums where the attendees can still speak with different speakers and hold conversations with each other and whatnot in these types of rooms and groups. Also, the videos, as I mentioned before, can be recorded and then shared later on as either content in training or, as a matter of fact, just something that's available to your membership. And what's really nice here is that since these videos can be interactive, and once you import them into TopClass, you can do different things like put interactivity in them, put bookmarks in them, put polling questions in them, and all those kinds of things as well. So it really makes for a very interesting kind of offering there. As far as certification programs go, this is something that has really taken off really big, especially in the online world, is being able to manage and track certifications and certificate programs that people might be interested in. Well, TopClass, it gives you the ability to administer and manage these programs. You can define the programs for the different certifications and certificates that you're doing, and also for maintenance of certifications. One of the important things in most certifications, and I'm aware of this with different associations I belong to, is that in order to maintain your credentials, you also have to do maintenance with those as well. So maybe on an annual or biannual process, you have to take additional courses or redo training that you've taken in the past. Well, TopClass will track all of that for the learners and let them know when something's due and when it needs to be done. So it really simplifies the delivery and the maintenance of certification programs in the system. The other thing too is that you can really build complex rules for what's contained in a certificate program and manage those complex rules. And then the other thing here too is that for many certifications, there can be different types of credit hours that are required, different credit types that are required. TopClass can track and maintain all of these as well. Not only that, but if you have different certification programs that individuals are going for within your system, but they require different levels of credit hours and whatnot, TopClass will track the individual credit hours required for those individual certifications. So for instance, just to wrap this up a little bit on the certification side of things, you can do everything in TopClass from the application and registration process all the way through to the maintenance of a particular certification. So it's a complete round trip for these types of programs. And then TopClass also it's really a very powerful tool so that you can really expand your online learning portfolio in the system and actually be the real preferred partner for training in your industry and in your area. So really deliver some impactful training. One of the things that was really important to us was a case study that we did. It was one of our customers last year. Now this took place in last year, and this is for the Institute of Public Procurement. One of the things that happened with them was they had, as you can see here, with all the COVID-19 stuff, we had to act quickly to position ourselves to still support our members. We had over 100 in-person courses scheduled between March and May 15th. This was of last year. And we have successfully converted more than half of them to virtual delivery. It's an amazing feeling to be in a nimble position to be able to do that. And we are thankful to be able to still support our members. And they did this all through utilizing TopClass. So it was something that was very, very important to them, and it worked out very well. And this year, we've noticed so many more of our customers are using TopClass to actually convert what they were doing face-to-face into bringing it online. And that is pretty much all the slides that I have here for this. And so what I wanted to do here is just go in, and I've got a little video to show you here. And let me just turn on my my share thing here, see if I can share the video and share the computer sound as well. So I want to do that when I start the video up. So here we go. And that's the video. So I just wanted to show you a little bit about TopClass and some of the different things that that we can do with the learning management system that we have.
Great, thanks, Mike. Everybody was jamming it. It sounds like in the chat. Joanna was a brave one that got on screen. They were all
I figured it was
egging each other on.
I figured it was better than listening to my voice. So it's
That's great. Well, I appreciate your time. We we're doing a lot of work with associations around certification and building new certification programs and things. I think it's everyone's always looking for those types of platforms. Joanna just realized that this is being recorded, so we have this forever. They're jumping in and dancing for us. So that's great. I know there was one question in the chat about what virtual systems that you guys integrate with.
right. We do it at Zoom, GoTo Training, GoToWebinar, and Adobe Connect. Those are the standard ones that we have standard bridges for. And what's nice about it, when you use one of those three, it's automatic integration with TopClass. So you create the sessions in TopClass and they're automatically created in those applications. But we do also the others too, but it's a generic integration with the others.
Great. Well, we appreciate it. Thanks for your time. And we have Thomas Wong up next with Oasis LMS.
All right. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. All righty. So
now I can see you. Okay.
right.
I'm going to let you take it from here.
all righty. So I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to pull up my slide. So good afternoon, everybody. So my name is Tom, and today I'm just going to highlight our Oasis LMS. And specifically, I think I'm going to follow some of the trends that's established here by showing just how we can help with virtual conference. Even though Oasis LMS can do a lot of things when it comes to online education, virtual conference seems to be a very topical use case, simply just because COVID is forcing everyone to think virtual. And so that's really what I want to focus on so that I can show you guys what our system can do for virtual conference. So when you think about virtual conference, really there are 4 elements that are sort of translated from a in-person conference that you need to do virtually. The first one is a poster gallery. Not all the associations or organizations has a poster gallery on site, but a lot of them do. And you just have to, I want to show how you can do an e-poster gallery. Education sessions is always sort of the meat and potato of your annual meeting. So we can show how you can do annual education sessions virtually. In addition, Expo Hall and the networking are the other 2 major components for any conference. And we want to make sure you can see how our platform can help you when it comes to doing that virtually. So I'm going to skip some of the, there we go. So this screenshot highlights what we refer to as a landing page for your virtual conference. Typically, we refer you can think of as a lobby area. So when the user first come to your virtual conference, this is what they see. They will see some tiles in the middle in hopefully bright colors, and each tile will represent, quote unquote doors that they can walk through to interact different parts of a virtual conference that you have. In this particular screenshot that I have, you see that I have 4 days of virtual conference that can be easily accessed. I also have a tile for Expo Hall, another tile for Play to Win, which is like a raffling system they have. We also have a discussion forum and also a networking section. So in a way, when the user land on your lobby page, they can quickly orient themselves and figure out exactly where they're supposed to go and click on the tile to walk through that door. In addition, you can have sponsor banners, which can take the attendee to any of the marketing landing page or marketing asset that they have provided. And last but not least, there's a little area at the top that you can update over the course of the conference to help user direct where they're supposed to go. For example, you want to remind the user to fill out the evaluation at the end of the conference. So this is sort of what we refer to as a lobby area. So pretend that I click on poster gallery, which is not a tile that's on my screenshot. But suppose I want to check out the poster gallery. In a physical conference, you will walk through the back of the exhibit hall and check out the poster gallery. In a virtual conference, it's actually much easier. You just click into a tile, you will see all the posters. Some of the posters can be video, can be PDF. You can sort them, you can search them, you can filter them. So in a way, a poster gallery in a virtual setup is actually much, much easier for user to self-direct to find what they're looking for. In addition to able to quickly find what they're looking for, you can also have a poster gallery that allows user to put ratings, so they can sort of rate what they like and don't like about a particular poster. They can bookmark it. They can even comment on posters to create a dialogue between the presenter and the conference attendee. So in a way, I always think e-poster gallery as almost a better version of an in-person gallery, because instead of walking through rows and rows of posters, you can quickly and easily find what you're looking for. So that's one use case for a typical conference. Another use case, obviously, is the meat potato of the conference, which is your educational sessions. So before we talk about the education sessions, there are sort of two method of delivering your sessions that I'm sure you're familiar with, but I want to highlight them here. The first is you can pre-record your education sessions and then live stream it or simulcast it. So the idea here is almost like a movie premiere. So you make a movie ahead of time, and then you have a world premiere where everyone tune in at the same time and watch it. And then after you finish premiere, it automatically become an on-demand product where the users can watch it anytime they want. So that, I think, is a much more relaxed way of managing your sessions, because you do most of the work ahead of time, but during the live portion of it, you really just have to relax, because you are queue up the videos and they're just going to play at their designated time. Obviously, you have another option, which is basically doing a live webinar. In this case, you are making sure the presenter is available, make sure there's no technical difficulties, make sure that, just like I'm talking to everyone right now, make sure that they know how to use Zoom and they know how to set up their speakers and whatnot, right? So in my mind, typically when you have a live webinar, it might be a little bit stressful just because there's multiple things you have to juggle. But in our experience, most likely you're going to have your keynote that is a live webinar, because that's where everyone tune in. And then you have multiple tracks, and then some of the tracks are going to be pre-recorded and some of the tracks is going to be live. With that said, here's this example of what the user sees when they walk into a particular day's calendar. So obviously, this is just the top of the screenshot, and this screen goes much, much longer when you scroll down. But what you see is a very typical calendar where the user can search for the content, they can filter for the content, but most importantly, any given time slot, you have multiple concurrent sessions. So the user can look at what's happening during that time slot and pick one of, let's say, 5 or 7 concurrent sessions you have available. Some of the clients we work with only have 1 or 2 concurrent sessions. That's okay, but just keep in mind that the more choices you have in a given slot, the more engagement you're going to get, because people will find the topic that they care about. So if the user click into one of the tiles, what they see is going to show sort of the title, what the course is, what the session is going to be about, and if there's any handouts that's going to be downloadable to the user. And then when the user when the virtual attendee click on access, what they're going to see is a live stream version of the video that has been pre-recorded. Now, this is if you go with the pre-recorded plus live streamed. If you go, if a session is a live webinar, when they click on access, they will actually get bounced to whatever webinar platform that you enjoy. These days, Zoom seems to be very popular, but our platform also work with GoTo and with Cisco WebEx. But in this particular screenshot, you can see that the presenter is talking in the video, but the presenter actually has pre-recorded this video, so the presenter can actually participate in the live chat and answer any questions that the attendee might have. So this is actually a very useful mechanic where the presenter is engaging with your audience without having to try to present, because the video is already pre-recorded and she's just replaying the video, right? And that's one way of engaging your users. As everyone knows, with a virtual setup, user engagement is really difficult to gather. So another way you can get user engagement is using additional tools that we have, such as Q&A sessions, a polling session, or a moderated chat session. So there's a different ways that you can sort of whip up user engagement by enabling different widgets. So that is education session, and I'm going to try to talk just a little bit fast, just because I only have 10 minutes, and then we can have another few minutes for question and answer. So here's an example of an expo hall. So expo hall, everyone's familiar with. It's where sponsors and exhibitors put up their booth. So pretend that the user come back to the lobby area and they click into expo hall. So what they see here is basically similar to what they will see in a physical conference, where they will see a huge signage of all the sponsors and exhibitors at the conference, and then they will basically decide which tile to click into to get into that particular expo hall or exhibitor booth. And then what happens is, instead of someone physically at the booth greet them in a physical conference, in a virtual setup, they will walk into a booth that has all the videos or any PowerPoints or any slides that's already uploaded. So they would just play it or they just read it. So this essentially is a virtual exhibitor booth the user will interact with. So obviously you will need to do a little bit more work ahead of time to make your content easier to consume and friendly to consume, so the user will come to your booth and actually engage with what you have to offer. There's additional things you can do. You can put links so that you can create a sort of a Zoom meeting during the conference, so that people can click on your Zoom link and actually interact with you synchronously. You can also put a raffle feature so that the user will come to your booth, enter the raffle, and you can set different rules on what you have to do in order to enter the raffle, such as watching all the videos and so on and so forth. And last but not least, you can also add a contact us area, where the user will have to, if they want to find more information, they can put in their contact and then reach out to the exhibitor directly. So that is how a virtual exhibitor booth works. So next part I want to highlight is the networking, which is also an important part of any conference. So we try to replicate that in a virtual setup. Obviously, there is never going to be 100% duplication of the type of networking you will get in an in-person setup. But here is how our system works. The user click on networking and they will fill out their own profile, even uploading their pictures. And then what they can see is everyone else that is in the networking session, so they can connect with them, with anyone that match their sort of interest, common interest, or the type of work they do. So that is a super fast 10-minute overview of how our learning management system can help you with your virtual conference needs. Like I said, we can do a lot more than virtual conference, but since virtual conference is a very topical use case, I want to focus my presentation on virtual conference. If you're already our client, reach out to us. We can show you how to use it to set up a virtual conference. If you're not using us already, definitely feel free to reach out to me. My contact is on the screen, and you can reach out and we can figure out how we can help you. So that is my quick tour of Oasis LMS for virtual conference. All right.
Great. Thanks, Tom. I know that it's a good point that you make, that if you already have your platform, to reach out. I know that I get those calls a lot of times where our clients will call me up saying, what virtual platform should we use? And I'm like, have you talked to your current vendor?
Yeah.
So that seems to be, so that's, it was a really important comment. So if there was any questions, I guess, Tom, what are you seeing in terms of engagement with your virtual exhibit hall?
So I would say that getting user engaged with your exhibitors and sponsors is probably going to be the hardest thing to do.
Yeah.
It's really just how the exhibitor I think a few things that we have seen that really worked is that they will have the raffling system works. If you have a Zoom link, so that people can click into the link during the virtual conference and actually go into a meeting, that someone actually will greet them. That will also create engagement between the attendee and the sponsor, and also just make content in the exhibitor hall more relevant, so that the people will spend more time in the exhibitor hall. So those are the things I would say that will help. So
that's great.
Yeah.
So I guess, how are you envisioning, as we kind of move into this, what some people are saying is hybrid, or providing at least both live and live in person, and also virtual options? Are you really looking at it from your platform standpoint, and more of like a content strategy, like we'll do these things live, but then it gets put into the LMS to be on demand, or trying to do something hybrid? I guess, what are your thoughts around that?
Yeah, so I think a virtual component of your conference, whether we fully go back to normal in person or not, I think the virtual component is going to be important. There's so many use cases where a virtual setup is very beneficial, from the e-poster gallery to ability to turn your a session to on demand as soon as the hour is up. There's just so many good use cases where having a virtual conference set up in concurrent with your in-person conference will make the entire learning experience, the whole conference experience, much better. So I think in the future, even if you stay with a full-fledged in-person conference, you should definitely think about how to add the virtual component to it, to make, to offer the biggest, the best service to your attendee. So that's sort of how I look at it. Yeah.
Great. Well, thank you so much. It was
right.
great. I know you have a great product and great presentation. We appreciate you jumping on here with us today.
Thank you.
And next up, we have Diane with Web Courseworks. Hi there.
Hi, thank you.
All right.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here today.
I'll let you take it away.
Sharing my screen, thanks. So what I'll be talking about today is the same theme, virtual events, but really a new twist in how we can simplify both hosting virtual events as well as the user experience by creating the virtual event as a course in your LMS. Quick look at what we'll be talking about today. We'll talk about what we learned in 2020, what types of virtual events and meetings are perfect for this type of setup, and most importantly, what would be the benefits to your organization and the attendees. So we talked a lot already today, so I'm not going to reiterate what people talked about, but what we learned in 2020, and I'll mention we also have a full-featured managed services platform called Conference Now, in addition to our Course Stage LMS. But what I'll be focusing on today is leveraging the LMS as a course. So what we learned during our virtual meetings in 2020 is that webcams became the norm. I miss the days, I'll admit it, I miss the days when I didn't have to use a webcam for every internal meeting and event. So now, you have to do that. That's how we engage, that's how we network during the COVID situation and working from home so much. Attendees also had the opportunity for different breakout rooms. We saw some of those today, having coffee rooms, having virtual happy hours, different fun events where they could be in the comfort of their virtual office or home and participate. And there was a lot more interaction in some respects than there were at in-person meetings. So during events, just like the one today, we have chat. People are participating, people are engaging. When we had those large in-person meetings, you're sitting in a room and you may or may not be able to ask questions, but with the virtual situation, we are all participating. So one of the main focuses, especially with scientific and medical associations, are that continuing education became even more important during 2020 and virtual events. And that's because folks, attendees, didn't have that plethora of different events that they could attend to get those credits. And a lot of the events were in fun places where you could bring your family and have a vacation. So in the virtual world, the events needed to include the continuing education, the credits, the ability to maintain the certifications that they needed to maintain throughout the years. And in terms of subject matter experts, we could no longer hide behind our slides. We had to be front and center. We have to be engaging, just like we are today. You have a variety of folks talking to you, and you have a choice of who you're going to listen to and who you're not going to listen to. So let me move on now to how do we pivot in 2021? So what we see happening, as we heard today, is that there is definitely this pivot to virtual learning as a continuation. So it's not going to go away. There is no normal of in-person meetings anymore. The new normal really is having a combination of in-person and virtual events in your portfolio. The things I'll be talking about today works really well for those specialty meetings, blended events where they could be in person as well as virtual, and any type of workshops and ongoing meetings that you have. Also, what we saw is even at the highest levels, the digital transformation had to be embraced. So those of us in the trenches have been talking about digital transformation and living it for years. But at the higher levels of your organizations, the executives now saw that we have to really pivot towards being digital and having the right technology and platforms in our toolkits. And also the most important thing that we've seen from 2020 to 2021 is how do we really consolidate the experience? Most folks added a new platform for their virtual events in 2020. And that meant, a host of new work, as I saw some folks mentioning in the chat. New integrations, new systems to handle, new people getting involved, more staff being thrown at the problem. So what our goal is, and what I'll show you today, is how can we make this easier, not only for your staff, but also for users, so they can really go to one platform and get all of the education, both the event education as well as your online learning. So what we have set up within the CourseStage LMS at Courseworks is not only the virtual event platform that I mentioned earlier, which is the full managed services platform, but also we create templates for our LMS clients where they can set up in a course template their virtual event. So what this is suited for best is for workshops, specialty meetings, events that are smaller, perhaps less than 1,000 attendees, maybe more in the 100 to 500 person range. And it works especially well if you need to do accreditation, because that's wrapped all within the platform. So by having a template, you can then take that and it has the structure in place for you. So it has the ability for you to see the duration of the event and add the different sessions to each of the days. It's white labeled, so it will have all of your event branding, which is differentiated from your LMS, and you can have all of the different styling. Also, it has built-in webinar integration. So it integrates with Zoom, GoToMeeting, Adobe Connect, and other platforms, so that when you're setting up this virtual course, which is your virtual event or workshop, you can set it up all within one platform, your LMS, and all the integration with Zoom can also be set up, the meeting times, etc., within the platform. Another key component, what we saw is that a lot of folks are using very effectively pre-recorded sessions. So you'll have a mix of pre-recorded sessions versus live sessions. And it's really good to have within your event that set of pre-recorded sessions, and those are easier to control and maintain. So what you'll then have in this course, which is your new virtual event, is all of those networking features, the chat, the registration, and all of those integrations you already have in place today with your LMS. So you'll have your single sign-on, the integration with your e-commerce, any of the tools and technologies that you have today fully integrated can be consolidated into your LMS platform. This is a quick example of a virtual event that one client did. Very easy to do. They use the course template and then they add their own branding for this event, which is different than their association. And they have the different components of the event. So there was the lobby, the different days of the event, different self-paced areas, networking areas, and all wrapped into that is the important accreditation and certificates that their attendees required. So this also shows within a session how you can go right into a session and attend it right all from the LMS. So why should you consider this, or what's our goal? Well, our goal is to make your life easier. Virtual events, making that quick change, selecting a platform, that wasn't easy to do. But most of you already have an LMS, and if you have our LMS, this benefits you in many great ways. The first is you already have a platform that you're familiar with. You know how to use it. You know how to set it up. So it's really going to streamline the administration of your virtual event by using an existing platform. As I mentioned earlier, if you have integration with your AMS or website for single sign-on in place with your LMS, you can use all of those. Nothing to set up again. And the all-important non-dues revenue generation. There's sponsorship opportunities, just like there are when you use a separate platform for your virtual event. So you can have sponsorship banners, logos, different things placed throughout that virtual event. For registrants and attendees, well, it couldn't be simpler. Most of those folks are probably your members and they've been in your LMS. So they continue to sign in the same way they've always done before. If there's a fee for registration, they can use the same e-commerce they've been using before. And in terms of the user journey, they can go through the event, different days, different times, absorbing the different content, and get the credit claiming and accreditation that they need, all in one simplified experience. And the best thing about this is a lot of your virtual events then become an on-demand course or activity in your LMS. When the event takes place in your LMS, it's much easier to take those videos, everything that took place, and just create it into an on-demand event in your LMS. So thank you so much for inviting me here today. I enjoyed hearing all of the other presentations, and I hope you enjoyed this one. If you have any questions, please put them in the chat at questions, or don't hesitate to call or, to email me at my email address that's here.
Great. Thanks, Diane. I appreciate your presentation. Just a quick question. How are you seeing, people are asking about pricing and kind of making money off of events. Do you have any words of wisdom or seen a client that's been successful in doing that?
Sure. The pricing for virtual events, at least in 2020, some were free or some were substantially reduced from the in-person events that were held previously. But what we're finding and recommending to our clients is that you have so many benefits from these virtual events, especially the smaller events, which are specialty topics, that the pricing should remain close to what you would have charged for an in-person event or slightly lower. And if you do go slightly lower, there is a chance of having more attendees than you've had in the past. And with the sponsorship and the increased attendance, you can make up that money if you do price lower.
Yeah, I keep saying it definitely wasn't free for us to put on those virtual events, right?
That's
so so great. Well, I appreciate your presentation, Diane, and we are going to wrap up the day with Dan Stevens and Doug with Association TV. I know, Dan, you've been chatting and you're ready to answer a lot of the questions that have been brought up, and I've held off on a few questions so you can talk about sponsorship and all those other things too. So
Thank you.
I'll let you take it away.
Thank you, Doug, and I appreciate your time today. And what we hope to show and kind of interest you in today is the last platform you'll ever need for on-demand, for virtual and hybrid, whether it's a 100-person specialty event all the way up to 15,000 or plus globally. So we are designed our association TV services. That's the name of our platform and services. Our company is called WorkerBee TV. And our platform, which is I'm going to focus on, and Doug's got some really cool technology to show you on elevating experience with your content, which he'll share in the back part of this presentation. But we are designed to be a one-stop shop. And 13 years ago, we began as a video-based platform for on-demand, and then really moved into hybrid, and then of course pivoted into virtual. But our whole model has been designed to say, look at the value of your content. Typically, the content at your best events has a 1 to 2 year shelf life. And when it's an in-person event, of course, it was focused on that 2 or 3 day experience. Virtual opened it up to the other 85% of the audience that was mentioned in the very first presentation that wasn't able to come to that event. But as we move to virtual and we start to look at how do we do this, there's been a lot of questions in the chat. The real issue is cost and complexity. Yeah, hybrid events weren't done a lot before COVID for 2 reasons. Either the meeting planner was afraid no one would come, or the real cost of hybridizing and virtualizing all that content. What we hope to show today is how affordable it can be is when you have the ability to blend your content mix, which might be different from event to event, over how much is in person, how much is hybrid or virtual, and how much is on demand, with one single access point and one set of exhibitors and sponsors to really generate the profitability that you need from events. So we are a multimedia platform. We're global backend. Of course, we can integrate with Zoom and all of the others, but we can also elevate to live switching like a practical event. We can film in every location in the world so that we can create the content and look at the experience from both a content perspective and a platform perspective, and create that predictable and familiar and measurable experience, because all of your events can be on your website using our platform, which integrates to your single sign-on, integrates to your AMS, integrates to your brand. And of course, all of the things that you would expect in a virtual or hybrid experience, from a real life interaction, polls and Q&A and continued ed capability and so forth, are all there. But the ability for it to be in the very same place, right beside in the library, where they can find it on demand the next day or the next month, is almost doing what Facebook did, which is training people, whether it's video, audio, or article, whether it's live or on demand, come to my website and I will engage you. And I'll make it easy for you to return. You don't have to know if it's an event or a webinar. You just come to one spot and you'll find what you're looking for. And this allows you to enhance the monetization capabilities, to support your sponsors over the life of that content, not necessarily a 3-day event, but it could be that that content's going to be up for 12 months, and generate all of the non-dues revenue streams and maximize that profitability and that experience. Matter of fact, when you look at it in this light, when you look at hybridizing, which can be extremely expensive, when you look at blending, we can take a 3-day event and we can lower the cost of hybrid by up to 2/3. So when you do that and extend the value and life of that content, it opens up the profitability. It reduces the amount of workload of trying to build 2 events at the same time. It's a win for the staff. It's a win for the sponsors. It's a win for the members. And of course, by default, the association. I want to take you out to a real life example. One of our clients is the American Association of Nurse Anesthetists, and I can never say that word right, so I apologize in advance. And they use us, and there's a couple of videos on our platform, on our website. One from their chief growth officer doing a testimonial, but the other one is talking about their transformational journey. And they use a lot of what we do. So let me go out and show you. So here is our platform integrated to their website and brand. And this is for all their non-continued ed micro learning. This library is chock full of video, articles, and podcasts I didn't have to know, or webinars. I can just go in and choose a channel or a search. When it's time to do a virtual event, you can do it in the same location. So here's a previous event. I could have filtered by date and by track or scroll down. I can have sponsorship on the sessions and so forth. Of course, .org community uses our Solution Center technology, which was showed earlier. And of course, the exhibitors, we have a version of this for e-posters as well. But the beauty of this comes when it's time to do your next event. Rather than throwing it away and getting another platform, the amount of effort reduces by 75%, and the cost goes down to less than half. And how do you do that? You place your next event. So here was their February event on the same location. You're training your members, just like Facebook does, come back to the same spot. And this event is now over, and all of this content is in the LMS. And here's an upcoming event. This coming in April 23rd to 25th. This will actually be the 4th event since August that they've hosted on the same platform and being able to reuse and go forward. All of their continued ed moves into the LMS, which is a module of our platform. So they use our LMS as well. And they have 2 levels of it. They have one level, which is subscription, more of a Netflix style model. And they have some courses that have to remain as pay-per-view or pay-per-course. And that interface looks just a little bit different. And they found through the pandemic that they could actually offer, if you come down here, you'll see not only video-based learning, but even audio-based learning. Or there could be old SCORM-based learning right beside it. And when I go into here, I can, of course, see all of the information I need to succeed with that particular course. Add it to my courses, start a course now, if I'm in the subscription system, or if I have to pay for it, and then all of the information. I'm just going to return back to the slide. I'm going to turn it over to Doug, who's really going to talk about the importance of content. So Doug, I'll turn it over to you. But ideally, when you're thinking of us, think of a one-stop shop and think of it's the last platform you'll ever need.
Thanks, Dan, and thanks everybody for joining us today. I've been learning a little bit about virtual events and some things that we can start helping clients with. But now that everyone has these virtual events, planning under their belt, Dan just mentioned one of our clients is on their 4th event with us. They're all looking for ways to elevate that content, to help promote, educate, and entertain to their audience. So it's been a lot of fun working with our clients, helping them bring their events to life with video. So we're working with, we have a team of professional graphic animators and videographers, and also a technology called Virtual Videographer that's helping our clients remotely grab content, video content in up to 4K quality. I'm going to show you some examples of just a few graphic packages that we've created for our clients, and then go into kind of how Virtual Videographer works. And I also have a quick story on how it's helping monetize some content as well, because I noticed a lot of comments about sponsorship in there too. So bear with me here. I'm just going to stop screen sharing for 1 sec to make sure I've got my sound on. So I'm going to start off by just showing you 2 what we call bumpers, and then I'll show you something we're doing daily welcome videos for a lot of our clients. So you'll just see an example of how we introduce every single day. We'll do a welcome video for some clients, and then also how a session. We were talking at the beginning of this session how it'd be nice to have some music play while people are coming in. So I just whipped up an example of how we do that, where there's some placeholder music going there while people are coming in. They know they're in the right place, and that stream's already going. So if your volume's on, you'll hear some audio here as well. So just a couple bumpers here.
Welcome everyone to the 2021 AIAA SciTech Forum.
Now here's your elevator music. When we create these graphic packages, we create it once and it can apply to all your sessions, keynotes, promotional materials, everything. So you create it once and it applies to everything. We got the intro, and then the speaker board. So the speaker board can accommodate 1, 2, 3, 4 speakers with their presentation slides edited directly into the presentation. Or we can do, panel board style where it's just the speakers and they're having a nice conversation. So I think it was Thomas had mentioned the production value of the pre-recorded set and forget play. We like to do that too, but we like to do that at the highest possible quality. So some of them are with up to 4K quality, and keynote speakers are a big popular one right now as well. So, and once you got your graphics package, how are you going to match that quality with video? Well, that's where Virtual Videographer comes in. So Virtual Videographer allows our professional team of videographers to log into a subject's iPhone, iPad, or laptop to record that to record a high quality video. So what we're doing is we're using the internet only to communicate with the subject and to control their camera settings. Setup super easy, so they could set up a light stand or light kit with a tripod in up to 15 minutes. And keep in mind, we have a professional videographer there the whole time, with them the whole time, so that we're helping them make sure everything looks really good, that they sound good. And you, from your association, can actually be in that session as a collaborator as well. So we can film up to 4 people in a session. You can also have up to 4 collaborators. We can turn the device into a teleprompter. And actually right now what we're doing is recording exhibitor look live. So just like if we were on an exhibitor floor, we're actually interviewing these exhibitors who might not have access to professional videographers. And now they do, thanks to that association. So it's a win-win. And like Dan said, we love win-win-win because it's win-win for the association, their exhibitors, and then it's great content for the attendees too. Setup's really easy. We're seeing a lot of people do one setup and then safely have people come to the same setup to do a series. This one here is for, there's an award ceremony we did with that client. And then once you do one video with clients, they come back. We're doing lots of award ceremonies with them now too. The interface is really simple for subjects to use. They click on a link in their email. They'll download an app, click the link in the email, put in a password, and then they're in the room and there's a professional videographer on the other end. There's so many use cases, and I'd love to hear your ideas on how you've used video. So if you want to toss those in the chat, by all means, but we've been doing all sorts of on-location filming and space museums. We've been dealing with some pretty famous people that what they're saying is like, oh, this is awesome. It feels like we have a videographer in the room with us. So lots of different use cases. We love the daily welcome videos. We like promoting once you have that keynote picked, do a short video with that keynote and maybe feature a sponsor in that, because they're helping make these virtual events possible. And we definitely want to give them as much exposure we can in those big 3: pre-event, during event, and post-event. So thank you, Dan. I'll drive the slides here, but like Dan said, one platform and our video production services could really help you elevate that content for your virtual event.
If you just go to the next slide there, Doug, by being that multimedia hub for your virtual, hybrid, and on-demand, and immediately moving it into your on-demand, we just make it so simple for your members to find, consume, and then act on your content. By being, whether it's when hybrid's back, we travel all around the world, and we have crews all over the world, some local crews plus our ability to travel. But then Virtual Videographer opens up this low-cost, fast, and efficient way. Right now, for one of our clients, we have one person in our studio. We are doing look lives for sponsors, and about every 30 minutes, a new sponsor comes on. It's all being pre-recorded for an event next month, and it's just amazing the quality that can be done. That we used to do on site.
And what's nice about those two, Dan, is the exhibitors, like I was saying earlier, don't have access to 4K filming or professional guidance. And they're not only getting the exposure to their target audience during this event with a great video that showcases their products and services, but they also get a high quality asset, a video that they can use to promote their company through their marketing efforts after as well. So not only are they getting the engagement from the event, but they're walking away with a nice video of them showcasing their services too.
And monetization, we know if you don't make money on your events, it's a challenge. And so we have so many ways of extending this. One of our clients that we featured a little while ago, they did an event they normally get 400 people to, and they did it over the month of July. Part of it was live, part of it was on demand. It was a complete leveraging this ability to be, live as well as on demand. We had 11,000 people over the month instead of 400 people. The amount of revenue they generated from access, from registration, as well as sponsorship and exhibitors was really amazing. And as we moved to hybrid, which is really where we started, we understand there's cost sensitivity there, and we know how to blend it so we're not blasting those people online with 8 hours a day. We can drip it out so that your budget is easy, your sponsorship engagement is high, your member engagement is high, and we lower the cost of a hybrid by up to 2/3 so that it is affordable and it doesn't stress your team. So that's us. Thank you very much. Let's open it up to questions. And Sherry, thanks for showing our listing in the Solution Center. We'll have that available. There's lots of information in there on us and some videos to watch, so check it out.
Great. Thanks, Dan. I wanted the conversation, there isn't any direct questions right now, but during the event, there's been, obviously conversations around monetization, right? Of whether it's the virtual event or sponsorship. And I know that a lot of organizations are having a really hard time with sponsorship. As you mentioned, we're using your platform. We really pivoted to more of a content marketing approach, as well as looking at the types of content that our partners can provide value to the members and get that in front of the members. So, I think that's one thing that we did a major pivot on that's been very successful. But I know that you do a lot of work with Anna and some other groups that have had similar success. Do you want to talk for a couple minutes? I know we're a couple minutes over for the day, but we were a couple minutes behind during the afternoon. So maybe we'll spend another 3 or 4 minutes, and then we'll wrap up for the folks that are still hanging in there with us.
Well, A&A shared on the video that I made with their Chief Growth Officer, Eric O'Connor. He shared that through their first annual conference that was virtualized back in August, that we learned enough on the data that they felt confident going to any one of their sponsors and saying, share with me your return on investment criteria, and I will guarantee you we'll deliver on it, because we now have the metrics. And but you made a very, very important distinction. If you look at most of the problems in the world, the easy ones are solved. The big ones require explanation, which is why video is such a powerful medium. And so content marketing, whether it's products and services in your solution center or thought leadership and education through the other part of the platform, that is a huge growth opportunity. And so a lot of our associations, what we're helping them do is look at your content calendar and look at your sponsors, not from the eye of revenue. What can your sponsor speak to as an expert? Will that be of importance to your members? And then go to that sponsor. They don't wake up in the morning and go, I need a video. I should call my association. And so go to them and say, don't say, would you like a video? Say, could you speak on this topic? And if you did, would it be a one session? Would it be a quarterly? Like, how would you do that? And the next thing you know, you'll have people saying, I've got 4 topics. How about we do one a quarter? And we can do it through video. We could do it through webinars. We could do it through whatever makes sense, right? And then you can start to look at saying, well, how do I film that once and make it many? So we like to film it. Maybe it's a webinar and it's gated, and maybe there's a 3-minute micro learning video and a 30-second social media video, and maybe we transcribe it into a blog article, and maybe we make a podcast out of the long form version, and the sponsors on all of those, and maybe there's even a version that goes on their website. And the next thing you know, you've basically turned that sponsor into a raving fan who goes, every time I need to communicate, I now want to talk to you because you have my audience and you know how to communicate with that audience better than I do. And so the next thing you know is now they're wanting more. And then you just find the right balance and come up with those topics to help them. And so we've seen that mushroom for many, many sponsors where they look at the association now and say, I get my videos there and I get to put them in two places, in front of your members and on my website. And I'm really getting leverage.
Yeah, I had a conversation with the CEO last week, and it was really a conversation around, having the sponsors feel like you're creating a home for them, right? Because we all know that everybody's getting complaints of, okay, they were already complaining in a physical environment that we weren't getting enough people into the exhibit hall. And then we put it online with competing content, and then they were getting, less opportunities to meet with people. So what is new? And I think you guys have a great solution and ideas for that, and using videos and repurposing content and all that content marketing and distribution, I think is great. So just a different kind of a new way to think. Well, again, I said we went really quick to the virtual meetings, and then everyone was like, oh, hold on, our sponsors didn't like that. So what can we be doing differently? So I think I'm sure you'd be happy to have conversations with anybody about that topic. And then, just to, I'll let you get some final thoughts, but tomorrow we will also be talking with our partners who are providing business analytics. I know, Dan, that's an important piece of your platform as well, and being able to show that value, association management systems, abstract management. So we encourage you all to come back tomorrow for 2 hours in the same format, and bring any questions you have. We have great, our participants have all been vetted. We've worked with all of them in the past and can say some great things about everybody that has been participating. So with that, Dan, I'll let you just wrap up with any final thoughts.
Well, first of all, thank you for putting this forum on. We really appreciate it. And I'd like to thank everybody for hanging in online yet again for a couple of hours. If we can help with hybrid or virtual or on demand or with video, please reach out to Doug or myself, or check us out in the Solution Center. And wish you all best as we all look forward to that first event where we can go in person again. I hope to see you there.